ain't no wannabes here. With some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked. How they like before they get on the mic. To my left we got the mighty Mer Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host Matt Evan Wallace on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Coming to you live from Jeff Goldblum's Honcho Spa, it is the Ditch Diggers with Mer Lafferty, Matt Wallace, and special guest Chuck Wendig. Welcome back, Chuck.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Matt's shitty. It's raining.
Shitty.
How are you?
Honcho Spa sounds like a sex move. Jeff Goldblum's Honcho Spa.
It should be. It's a last chapter of the Kama Sutra, I think.
Yeah.
But Chuck, you raised a very interesting point before we started recording, because we told you we had this whole bit we did on the last episode about honchos and Honcho Spa, and you asked how many honchos can there be is it in the spa or in a company? I've forgotten the whole thread.
Yeah, it's important to know these things to get data.
Yeah. So how many what's the maximum occupancy of honchos? We never decided that. And I feel like it's an important detail.
I think it depends on the size of the spa.
Well, and I imagine Jeff Goldblum's Honcho Spa would be pretty expansive.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe Jeff Goldblum has a very humble Honcho Spa,
No, or maybe he has a very elite Honcho Spa that only fits one because he is the only head honcho.
But I have heard tales that Jeff Goldblum is not super elitist. Like, you can go to where he's doing his jazz band thing, and he'll just, hang out with you, which is kind of not very elite.
Wow. That is now the only thing I want to do in my life. If I can just go hang out with Jeff Goldblum at a jazz club, I can just retire from experiencing things.
I think you can, because you're kind of LA adjacent, which means it'll only take you 14 hours to get there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Since moving out to Orange County, I now have no tolerance for that drive. It's the weirdest thing. I used to do it all the time because when I was dating my wife, she lived in Orange County and I lived in LA, so I would drive 50 miles to see her. And again, it was worth it because she's good people. You didn't hear that part of this conversation because that happened before we started recording. But we decided my wife is good people, and
we knew this already.
I think we knew it already. Yeah,
we did. I talked about
universal truth.
Yeah. But now that I live in Orange County, there has to be a monumental reason for me to go to Los Angeles. Someone has to be offering me a lot of money to get me to make that drive because I have no tolerance for it because it sucks so badly. This is not what the show's about. This is not what the show's about at all. But hey.
That's okay.
You came to see me when I was in LA.
Well, that was a monumental reason. Aww. It was you. It was the Mer Lafferty, Hugo-winning Mer Lafferty, Hall of Fame podcaster Mer Lafferty, author of Solo Mer Lafferty. I could keep going.
Yeah.
All right. But we're here for Chuck.
Is it monumental? Is it like a monument?
No, it's not.
Monumental?
Nope.
Yep. It could be.
The reason that pun was so great is because it was so awful.
It wasn't a great pun.
Which I think is the key to a great pun.
It is. It has to be. It has to be.
It has to be an awful pun. That's the whole thing. But that's also not what we're here to talk about.
Also true. What are we here to
Chuck,
What's up? What's up?
Not a lot. I'm having issues that we're not going to discuss in this show, but we'll be discussing on a future show at some point, I'm sure.
I hope so, yeah, because you set Twitter on fire with some
I had no choice.
Yeah, no, you had to, and I'm with you.
But we got to talk about when Chuck set Twitter on fire. Unfortunately, it's taken us a while for all of us to get scheduled, so this happened a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, but Twitter was on fire, thanks to Chuck.
Yeah. Going chronologically with Twitter fires, and Chuck's was first, so we're going to deal with yours.
Exactly. So, how's working with Marvel, Chuck?
It's great. It's great. I have a good relationship with them. They're fans, as it turns out, huge fans of mine.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's over. Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed back in the metaphorical door, so to speak. I think that is shut. That way is shut.
So first, let's establish you do a lot of stuff, like most freelancers. So let's establish what you do, especially with regards to Star Wars and Marvel and Del Rey. Make sure everybody understands where the borders are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am mostly a novelist. That's kind of my big bag. And so I got started in the Star Wars space, writing for Del Rey side of Star Wars, and I did the Aftermath trilogy, which I'm sure people have heard about because I'm mouthy on Twitter, so which will be relevant soon. And so and I have stuff that's not Star Wars related, thankfully, in the novel space. And I've started to break into comics, and I didn't break into comics with Star Wars, but I did break into comics with Marvel. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm lying about that. I broke into comics with Archie, but the big thing was then Hyperion with Marvel, which led to Star Wars. I did the adaptation for The Force Awakens for Marvel, and that was a horrible experience. And so they, I think, as by way of an apology, were eventually going to offer me more work for the Star Wars Marvel thing. But then the Star Wars Marvel team, the editorial team, stopped being the Star Wars editorial team, and they brought on a new team. And that new team got in touch with me to I did a Darth Vader annual number 2 from the very excellent Charles Soule Darth Vader series. And then I got hired to do another 2 series, one of which was announced, both kind of like 5-issue jams. And the one that was announced was called Shadow of Vader. And that was going fine until it wasn't.
In fact, it was announced at New York Comic Con last time I saw you.
It was, yeah. Actually, I did a whole panel. They did their whole publishing panel. And,
yeah.
As you well know.
Yeah.
And we got to announce it on the panel. So it was kind of a big... And I got to meet the editorial team, and they seemed fine with me. They seemed just fine with me. But that didn't last very long. Yeah.
Great. So what happened?
Well, a week later, they called me. They wanted to schedule a phone call. And given that my first phone call with them the week before that was to offer me new work, not Shadow of Vader, but this unreleased thing, I knew a second call probably wasn't good news. Like a phone call, if they can't do it over email, it's either really good news or really bad news.
Yes.
Right.
And so I knew I had gotten the good news, so there couldn't be more. So I got on the phone, and they were the editor, Mark, was a little bit on the hostile side with me. It wasn't like one of those things where sometimes like someone fires you or they let you go. Because I know fires is sort of a screwed up term here because I'm freelance. You can't really quote unquote fire me, but I was kicked off the book, in both books actually. And it wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, I hate to do this. This sucks, but like I have no choice. It wasn't like, it was one of those things where it was like, no, you brought negativity to the book and your politics and your vulgarity and your profanity. And I was like, okay. So, and I was like, what because they said I brought all this negative attention to the book. And I was like, well, what negative attention exactly, where are you getting this from? Because I would think attention would mean people like are vocally mad about it. And there was only one group of people who were vocally mad about my politics, because I had pinged during the Kavanaugh confirmation, I had pinged the radars of some really fun, just chuckle-headed clown dicks, like Shapiro and James Woods, Dinesh D'Souza, Kurt, the pitcher, what the hell's his name? Kurt
Schilling?
Schilling. I want to say Schillinger, but that's Oz. But it works because they're all Nazis.
Yeah, that was a great show, though.
Yeah, it was a great show. Until it wasn't.
But that's true of so many different shows.
Bring it back in, guys. Bring it back in.
I'm circling back around. It just occurs to me, like, you literally just described what Batman's rogues gallery of villains would look like in real life. Like, that is...
Yeah.
Without the fun that is the rogues gallery without the fun gimmicks. Just a bunch of assholes causing as much destruction as possible with no superhero to keep them in check because there are no real superheroes. Like that's
no creepy clown makeup, but like it's there. You can't see it, but it's there. Yeah.
The essence of creepy Joker-esque clown distilled down into that's what that group is. So
they wore the makeup last night, so you can still see a little bit because they used the wrong cold cream.
A little behind the ear,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I made some jerks mad, and so when I got the call telling me like, well, you're bringing negative attention, I was like, well, I have a pretty strong suspicion who you're paying attention to, because I didn't make real news media with this. I didn't make like CNN, like, oh my God, Marvel freelancer goes cuckoo pants on Twitter. Like, what happened? Like, I didn't make any real news of it. I made Breitbart, which, okay. So the fact that told me who they were listening to. And I told them, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this because like I am fortunate enough to be reliant more on my novel career than my comics career, which actually was probably a deficit. Like I shouldn't be writing comics because the money's so bad. I'm better off not writing comics. And I was like, I'm going to talk about this. And they're like, well, what if you didn't? What if you just said, seriously, they said, what if you said you're just too busy and then you can't finish.
Wow.
What
I
if?
had not heard that
I was like,
part.
what a horrible thing. Like, I have to hang myself on a cross because you're letting me go. Like, that looks bad for me. If I have to say I got too busy, took on this job, and I can't hack it, that's terrible for me going forward.
So what is this? What is this?
In
What
what
if? I mean, that's I can't even wrap my brain around that.
Yeah.
Just so insane. What context did they like? How did they even couch that? Like, what is the benefit of you describing the situation that way when they're pitching it to you that you should do this?
I don't know. I just said I'm going to talk about this, and they're like, "Well, what if you didn't? What if you did this other thing instead?" And I said, "No, I'm going to still talk about it." And they said, "Well, you control your own narrative." I'm like, "Great, see you later." Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go put this on Twitter right now because go fuck yourselves. I don't know. Like that's horrible. Why would you do that? Why would you say those things to me?
That is so stunning to me, man. Like I said, I didn't know that they told you to do that on top of all the other horrible shit.
That was their suggestion. Yeah, that I would basically hang myself on my own ineptitude.
It's like, can you do us a favor? You know?
Yeah.
I love
No,
it.
seriously,
what
that's
if
what it
you
was.
didn't?
Yeah, what if you didn't? What if you were nice to us instead?
What if
And
you
the funny
kept me
thing
on the
was,
book?
like I told them, I even said, this didn't make the news media yet, but it's going to as soon as I start talking about it.
No, that was
They didn't
what.
believe
Yeah,
me. They
that's
did
what I
not
was going to
seem to
say.
believe me.
All this negative attention they're talking about that didn't exist. That's what they ended up getting by doing this.
And now they haven't announced the book. Like the book was supposed to be coming out in January, and the January solicits landed, and the book isn't on it. So I don't even know what's happening now, and they're certainly not going to keep me in the loop. So.
Like, removed from what we're talking about here, by the way, I was really excited about that comic book.
Yeah.
I was too. You know what? I am a terrible comic book writer, but like this is the series where I started to figure out how to write comic books, and I thought it was actually pretty good. I'm like, I think I've figured this out. And nope, turns out too late.
Wow. So okay. So that happens. You talk about it. You just basically tell what happened. I remember the thread. You just told what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told what happened.
Like me, I would have. You've seen what happens when I rant about people. Like I go off on them. I thought you were very judicious about the whole thing.
Well, I tried to be because I do recognize that as much as, I got a terrible phone call and I don't like the corporate policies that led to this. I also recognize there's a lot of great people making comics for Marvel and inside and outside of it, both as freelancers and people who work there. So, I mean, I'm not there to like burn the whole forest down, but I think it's important, especially since like I am fortunate enough to both be kind of a, white dude in comics and also to be a person who's not reliant on my comics income, where I can maybe shine a light on what is living underneath your refrigerator, so to speak.
No, absolutely. Because that's the thing that occurs to me is when stuff like this happens to someone who's privileged and fortunate enough to have the kind of platform where they have a tool to fight back. I think about all the people they've done this to who don't have those tools.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's all private, so I'm not going to go into it. But I mean, I can't tell you the dozens of messages I've received from comics professionals, both in regards to this company and other companies who've endured serious stuff just like that, or worse than what I did. People who worked there and were fired and not protected, women who are not protected by the company. Like, I mean, in grotesque ways. So, this is like a real.
Yeah, it's never an isolated incident.
No.
And, talking about not having the platform with the tools, it's not even just about that. It's about people who feel like if they speak out at all, they will cease to have a career.
Yes.
That's what they have to worry about is not working anymore.
Right.
Because they tried to say something about the situation. Like, that's always where my head goes with something like this. I love you, man. You're a friend of mine. I hate that it happened to you, but, like, that's where my head goes is how many people did they fuck over that we've never heard about? So
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be fine, but other people wouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, then it's coupled and magnified in horrible, horrible ways when you sort of tie it and see how things like Comicsgate fits into that.
Yeah.
Comicsgate was after me on this stuff. And they were the initial first wave of people coming at me for my tweets about Kavanaugh, and then which weren't even original tweets. Like people are like, "Oh my God, Chuck is so unhinged." I'm like, this is like literally those tweets were frankly like rehashes of earlier angrier tweets. Like they weren't even new angry tweets. They were just like reboots of old normal "I'm mad at this situation" tweets.
And also not anything everyone else wasn't fucking saying, by the way. Like, it's not, not like your anger level or your language or whatever was abnormal for the situation. We were all tweeting the same shit. Like,
yeah, exactly. Real. And people are like, well, my God, there's liberals in comics. Oh my God, there's a sun in the sky. What a crazy idea. So, the fact that Comicsgate got on it, and then suddenly there was this massive, because there's people doing, I've seen literal academic papers on this situation, where bots and sock puppets rose by 600% or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's when you get the chuckle-headed clown dicks coming in and being mad about it, and Breitbart and all that stuff, and then more bots. And so it's just like, again, I have the audience and the career to weather that kind of storm, but a lot of people would not. Some of the stuff I got would upset me, like some of the things behind the scenes, both before and after the firing. And if I were new at this career or hadn't experienced some of it already and sort of formed those emotional calluses, I mean, it would really, it would be a kind of a crushing thing, both in terms of the limitation to your career aspect and then also just the sheer level of harassment crashing down on your beach is pretty troubling.
Absolutely, man. Like how much talent, and we have, we're not the first people to have this conversation. Like how much talent, how many stories did we not get to hear? How many brilliant stories did we not get to hear because of crap like this? Yeah,
way too many, I imagine.
So you said that comics pays shit and you shouldn't be in it anyway. Yeah. That aside, do you think that this situation with Marvel has hurt your chances to work with anybody else in the comics field?
Given the response after this, no, I don't think so, because I had a lot of people asking me to pitch to them or
really
asking me to write other IP. Yeah, no. A lot of other comics companies, indie companies specifically, reached out. And they were very nice about it. And actually, a lot of professionals from inside other companies were pretty great, too. And some of them are veterans from Marvel who, again, I won't repeat them because they're not mine to tell, but tell really harrowing, weird surveillance culture stories, really creepy stuff. So
wow,
yeah.
So if I can ask, and if you don't want to answer at all, we can take it out. Are you going to follow up on any of that, or are you done with comics?
I've already followed up on it. I love comics. The money isn't great, but also the money's really bad with IP comics. So there's a different calculus when it comes to creator-owned. The creator-owned stuff is trickier because there's 3 or 4 different paths to making creator-owned and determining how much you actually pay for your own comic up front, and determining how much the company itself pays for the comic. But I'm definitely pursuing that. I have always sort of wanted to do something like that, and hopefully there's still opportunity. And I'll still do IP comics too. I mean, if it's something that I like, that's the only reason I ever did Star Wars in the first place. It was like I liked it, not because I really want to think it's a good way to get rich, because it's not really.
Right.
It's something I want to do.
It's fucking Star Wars. Who doesn't want to write Star Wars? I'm the only one in this conversation who hasn't written Star Wars, and I'm insanely jealous of both of you. I'm not worried about it. So as far as your reputation, the subject of your reputation being damaged or not being damaged, that kind of segues into something I really wanted to ask about. And again, you talk about this as much as you can. If there's any areas you can't go into, we totally understand. But I'm just curious, who was actually upset at Marvel about what you're doing? Was this a corporate level policy that you violated, or is this a personal thing from a single individual or several individuals? Because I think that was one of the big confusions I saw on Twitter, was what level is this coming from, and what are they actually mad about?
Well, see, that the first initial answer to that is it is not a company policy. They don't have any sort of morality clause. They don't have any social media guidelines. They have a pretty dated, old-school contract that features nothing like that. They do have a clause in there, of course, that says they can fire you over literally anything. They can let you off a book for zero reason without any notification. And so whatever, they could not like my shoes, and I couldn't write for comics anymore. So the phone call, I did ask Mark, the editor, where is this coming from? And he said it's coming from him. So the only technical information I have is that it comes from him directly. Now, having spoken to a lot of people behind the scenes, both either people who work there or other freelancers, there's some multiple stories that have sort of come out of there. One is that Ike Perlmutter, who of course is one of Trump's close little buddies and who reportedly kind of unofficially runs the Department of Veterans Affairs without ever having been confirmed.
Wow.
He like straddles Hollywood and has a desk inside Marvel. So when he gets upset that someone has upset, his buddy Trump or is insulting his particular political environment, that he can get very particularly vindictive. And so I am told by a few people that this may come literally top down from someone like him, because I did make Breitbart and I did make, Dinesh D'Souza, who's one of the guys who Trump literally pardoned. So literally, it's sort of on his radar is like, oh, okay, so that's like pretty much top of the poop heap is where I'm at. So now I have also heard that it's from Disney, that Disney was mad at me, but I don't buy that. Number one, because I actually not long ago went through sort of a job interview process with Disney in terms of working for some of the Star Wars stuff behind the scenes at the theme park. It didn't work out for my timeline because I was writing. I had to finish Wanderers at the time for Del Rey, the big book that's coming up next summer. But I passed all of their job interviews so they know who I am. Disney is an entity comfortable with my Twitter feed. You know what I mean? And I've also heard that when Marvel likes to do maneuvers like the firing of Chelsea Kane or firing of me, that they blame Disney as a way of absolving themselves of responsibility and convincing their freelancers, hey, it's not us, it's just the Mouse House. Don't worry about it.
Right.
That being said, I have no idea. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's, I'm told multiple different things. The only thing I can confirm is that the editor told me it was him entirely, and he was very mad about it, and he sounded mad. So who knows?
Yeah, it's the thing. That's the thing that disturbs me. One of the things that disturbs me the most about the situation is the idea that even if I don't agree with it, I get if there is a blanket corporate policy about behavior or whatever that is equally applied to anyone regardless of ideology. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if there's a mandate that's like, hey, if you say naughty words on Twitter, whatever you're talking about, we're going to fire you. Even though that idea is ridiculous to me, at least it's something that's being applied equally to all people. Well,
and it's something when you sign on.
Yeah.
You would at least say, well, I signed the contract that says you can have my child. So here's my child. I signed it. I'm stupid. Right. I did that. So.
But when they're subjectively, unilaterally, arbitrarily applying this vague guideline, because it seems like you cross an ideological line that they don't like, that's what really starts to disturb me.
They didn't tell you about.
Right. And what was interesting is like later, after like it broke a bunch of news and like Entertainment Weekly got in touch, and no one really got much out of Marvel from commentary on that one, but Marvel made a comment to, I think it was Entertainment Weekly, that was like, well, it's not the politics, it was the vulgarity surrounding the politics, which is nonsense. It's like that's weak sauce in terms of an excuse. It's obviously the politics, because the vulgarity wouldn't matter if you agreed with it.
Also, the vulgarity is not a new thing with you, Chuck.
Not at all, as it turns out. It's a pretty fucking thing I do. It's a thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had people tell me that they meet you in person and they're startled when you're not constantly pouring forth vulgarity.
I get that too. People are like, you didn't curse when I met you. I was like, well, I'm not just like... what do you think I did? I'm just a profanity geyser. Just like, fuck you! Yeah.
Those are very well-crafted, thoughtfully constructed vulgarities that you put out, as a writer.
I work on them, goddammit.
Yeah, damn right. It's art.
Not everybody deserves them.
Right, that's right.
No, not everybody merits that. If anything, the Nazis should feel special.
Right, they should. They're so impressive. They get that.
I guess I want to. I know this is a hard question to answer, and if this is just repeating, but I'm just really curious. Like, did you get the impression that Mark or whoever this is coming from, that they were angry because of the way that the bots and the Nazis, everybody doesn't like you, of the noise that they were making? Like, they got the impression that there was this big angry group out there that was pissed and they were going to get backlash from that? Or did you get the impression that it was more the content and what you were saying and who you were pissing off that did it? I guess I'm just wondering if it's...
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the way it was said to me was that, yes, it was the negative attention, but there really wasn't a lot of it. And so it's hard to really know. But no, I mean, it sounded like they sounded mad at me. Not just like, again, it wasn't a bummed out thing. Like, man, I hate to have to do this, but you've just gotten a lot of bad press over this and we have to let you go. It was just like a personal, but also I'm told that he is a super lefty guy and also does like a lot of, axe carrying for the big bosses, C.B. Zabelski or Perlmutter. So I feel like he's probably, at least from what I'm told from people, that there's a situation where he's maybe falling on his sword.
Right.
So I don't know. But then again, he follows like Comicsgate people on Twitter. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, it just gets into such a weird nebulous area. Like, I understand, because that's the thing we've seen. We've seen, a very small group makes it seem like there's a big noise around something, and a corporate entity falls for it because they don't know any better, right? Like, we've seen that situation. So I can almost understand that. It's not cool, and once they realize that's what's happening, they should reverse their decision and fix the damage they've done. But it just really, I just worry in this instance it was more like, oh God, he pissed off James Woods. I don't want James Woods mad at me. I agree with everything James Woods says. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I worry it was more of that, and that's frightening to me because that gets to the area where anybody who doesn't have Trumpian political views, we're not going to hire, or espouses them, we're not going to employ, and that's just a terrifying thought to me.
Right. I mean, the fact that they have a Trumpy kind of right at the top of their pyramid is indicative of something.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just, it's really hard. It's really hard to swallow. The other thing, I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, I guess, because this was another thing that I saw on Twitter, and I really just wanted to know how you felt about it, is a natural response to this from people who are on your side, and we're very upset about this. A natural response to this was we should boycott Marvel and not buy Marvel products or Disney products. Like, where do you land on that kind of viewpoint as a response to this situation?
I don't know, because first of all, I would never encourage anybody to do that, like in a way where I'm like, you should do that. That's kind of like, you got to make peace with your own gods on that one, because a boycott will hurt good people.
Yeah.
And, Nadia Okorafor has the Shuri series coming out. And so if you boycott Marvel, you don't get that. And she doesn't get rewarded, and arguably she gets punished for that. That being said, on the other hand, boycotts are not meant to be nice and selective. They're meant to be a hammer that you hit something with, and like stuff will break. It's like a protest in the middle of the city. It is going to, by its nature, inconvenience a lot of really good people too. They are not going to be able to cross that bridge. It's meant to disrupt something. It's meant to be an act of absolute disruption. And so, from my mileage, it's like, what I told people on Twitter, and I was like, I think the middle line of that is support marginalized creators working at Marvel. And like I said, I still know people inside Marvel who are good people. And I know people, I would never, what am I going to tell people to boycott Star Wars? Are you fucking nuts? I'm not going to boycott Star Wars. I won't read the comics. I'm done with the comics because I just fucking can't. It makes me mad. So, but like, what am I going to, I'm watching Resistance now. I'm excited for the Mandal. Like, I'll watch it all. I'm a sucker. So I'm in. And there's great people making that stuff. And from what I, like people from inside Lucasfilm, when this all happened, they pinged me like, what the hell is going on? Like, they didn't know what was going on. So this didn't come from them. And so I don't know. And people at Del Rey, both on Star Wars and outside of Star Wars, were like, what is happening right now? And so, I mean, it's fine. Like, but in terms of the Marvel itself, on the one hand, I think, supporting the marginalized creators is a good idea. On the other hand, it is important to recognize that Marvel literally is probably a Trump supporting organization, at least at its top. I don't mean institutionally throughout, but I mean, at that peak, you're probably funneling money to some degree into the president's coffers, and you have to make some peace with that. Now, of course, half the products we probably buy are like that, so you have to be aware of how your money is out there in the world.
No, that's the thing, and I mean, it's a loaded question. There's no good answer to it, but we run into it. We bump up against this so much now because so few corporations tend to control pretty much everything we consume. You know. So I think it's a problem we constantly can. Like with Amazon, we get that all the time when they do something. Oh God, shit. But at the same time, it's like, no, I have to link you to my Amazon because like most people are going to buy it there if they're going to buy it online. Like it's Precisely. How I make my living. So it's something I wanted to explore. But again, I was kind of saying because there's no good answer to it. What I was telling everybody for my money was, I don't think a boycott punishes people who don't deserve to be punished. At the same time, I do think that your money could be better spent in general supporting more indie creators and more marginalized creators doing their own thing, which I don't think is an unfair statement. But it's all about how you reconcile it for yourself. I just, like you said, you gotta be aware of where your money's going and kind of figure it out. The thing,
That's exactly it. Yeah, because I think like if you're gonna, if you're gonna say I'm gonna boycott Marvel, but you're aware of it and you know of that nuance, then you can say, well, I'm going to spend the money, like you said, on indie creators or on a novelist who was writing for Marvel and I was looking forward to their work. Like Eve Ewing is doing Ironheart, the Riri Williams series, right? The new sort of Iron Man. So I mean, giving her money in another direction is a way to sort of kind of bridge that gap if you so chose.
Yeah, and the other reason I brought this up is I wanted people to have kind of those options if they hadn't thought about them if they were struggling with this too, because we all do. We all struggle with this. If you're not a sociopath, you struggle with this.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
right?
I saw some people on Twitter saying they were gonna not buy any more Star Wars stuff, like Star Wars fiction, and I'm like, look, Del Rey had nothing to do with this. That's why I wanted to set the boundaries. Is the Star Wars you write on the Del Rey side is not touched by any of it. You could do another Star Wars novel.
In theory, yeah. In theory, I could. No one has told me I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't guarantee that there's not I'm not like on a wanted poster inside Disney somewhere. So like it'll get up to a certain point and they'll be like, no, bah, and just like I'll be ejected. But so far, no, I don't believe that that's accurate.
I totally want a copy of your Disney wanted poster. I want to put that on the wall. I think that would be hilarious.
I was thinking I wanted to send a spy into Disney headquarters to find it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I like the idea that there is literally like a bulletin board at Disney with a bunch of wanted posters on it of people. Like they're a bodega that has canceled checks up on the wall or some shit. That's something they'd have out in the open.
Yeah.
That was kind of, I guess, shifting gears a little bit. That was really interesting what you just said about Lucasfilm not knowing what was going on. And did you say Del Rey didn't know what was going on either? Like you heard from them?
Yeah.
See, because I mean, I'm just throwing this out. Like, totally correct me if this is wrong thinking, but it seems to me if this was coming from Disney, the overlord guardians of the Star Wars property, like they also would have reached out to Lucasfilm, to Del Rey, and anybody else you were doing Star Wars business with, business with.
That's my feeling, and again, because I've sort of passed the Disney gauntlet already.
Right.
I was sort of surprised to hear that it would have come from them, and so I think the more likely reality is that it's just sort of a Marvel trying to shift some blame.
Yeah, to me that makes a really strong case that it's an internal Marvel thing, which I think is an important distinction to make. But again, like you said, it doesn't mean that your reputation hasn't been affected with them too from this, which is kind of a shitty.
It's possible, yeah, it's possible.
What do they call that? Tortious interference? I've been looking into that myself for an unrelated issue. But anyway.
Totally unrelated, yeah.
No, but I've completely lost the thread of what I was talking about. So I guess, Chuck, the thing that I come to after everything we've talked about so far is like you've talked a little bit about you're not going to do any more Marvel comics or Star Wars comics, but you are pursuing these things with kind of indie creators. If you're in the situation that you have found yourself in, but you don't have your platform, like what do you do moving forward from this? If you're not someone who has all the things that you got going on,
if you're not me, I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to. I wish there was. I mean, try to reach out on social media and let people know, and try to find allies and see if you can get signal boosts to that, because it's going to be harder if you don't have what I have. And I mean, again, I'm saying that as not a thing that I deserve or a thing that I have, whatever, but it's a thing that I'm privileged to have, is the platform and the outreach that I do have. And I think it does speak to the fact that as a creator, if you're someone who wants to make really whatever the hell you want to make, whether it's comics or books, that you're really best, number one, trying to diversify what you're doing. So you have a number of, if one thing collapses, either because of something like this or just because sometimes shit goes sideways and, with an industry or with a company. And so you have to have somewhere to move. So being diversified both in terms of the companies you're working with and the formats that you work for is valuable. But then also sort of, getting into a situation with your eyes open and knowing, what's going on there, and also trying to keep as much creator-owned material as you can. It sometimes can be harder, and sometimes I think there's an enticement to working for big IPs.
Right.
But a lot of the legacy IP people will also sort of tell you yeah, it sucks because I created this awesome thing and now it's in a movie and I get almost nothing for it, if anything.
Right.
I get a shout out, and it's just I literally created something that's making bajillions of dollars, and I'm having a hard time eating this week. So do go in with your eyes open as to what it is to create intellectual property for other people and not get much for that.
Yeah, it's tragic. The tragic comedy of it is everybody I know, because I know plenty of people who like make their living exclusively from doing tie-ins and doing other people's IPs and stuff. And even though they make the majority of their money doing it, they have nothing good to say about it. None of them have anything good to say about it.
It's almost like and the freelancers get screwed really easily on that front, and it's sort of. As you well know, Matt, the freelancers can be kind of you're at the bottom of a shit funnel for a lot of that stuff, and so
we are disposable. We are the ready wipes of this industry, and it's very sad.
You ready wipes of the industry. That's true. So you got to know that going in, and also try to protect yourself from that. And try to again doing like you're doing, create your own stuff and sort of your own material that is yours till the end of time. That you're not just like kind of sucking on someone else's teat, so to speak, in terms of the how you survive.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to kind of throw out to you was because anytime something like this happens and you give your side on Twitter and it blows up in the news, a lot of people tend to draw their own conclusions or put forth their own theories or put stuff on you that you necessarily didn't say or do or whatever. I just wanted to ask you, are there any big misconceptions surrounding this whole thing that you wanted to clear up or that you wanted to address that you had?
Trying to think. I know I tried to address them all at the blog. I'm trying to think of what they were. Like, number one, like some people thought when I said I was kicked off a second book that is not a Del Rey book. It was people by their nature refer to comics as a book. Like, I was on a book. So no, I was on a second Star Wars comic book that is not announced that I'm no longer on. So it was never kicked off any novels. And some people are like, well, because he's not scheduled for Star Wars novels, that means he's done there. But the only reason I'm not scheduled for Star Wars novels is because I have other stuff coming out with Del Rey that's on my side, Creator Own. So I'm kind of busy, and they also don't want me competing with myself on bookshelves, which is noble and understandable.
No, that makes good marketing sense, honestly. You don't want to dilute the pool.
Right. And then in my initial tweet thread talking about all this, I introduced it by talking about Aftermath and the response that Aftermath got and how, putting in LGBT characters sort of drummed up a certain side of negative fandom. So some people
just how mildly
just a mild small
it's hilarious to me. The
immune reaction.
That is gonna cause some controversy.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
I haven't been constantly inundated with jackasses.
Just a septic tidal wave. So but then some people drew that to be like I was quote unquote fired because I put in LGBT characters, which is not a meaningful thing. In fact, and they also suggest I was fired because I was mean to fans, which is explicitly not, first of all, not true, but also not the reason that I was let off the book. In fact, actually, when Aftermath came out, sort of an apocryphal story, I was responding to some of the negative reviews, and not necessarily the reviews about my writing, but the stuff in the reviews that was obviously more socially septic, like stuff about putting in gay characters and whatever. So I was on a panel at New York Comic Con, I guess the year that it came out, and Aftermath, the first book. And one of the, I won't name the person, but one of the higher ups in Lucasfilm approached me after the panel, was like, by the way, that thing you're doing like online with all the, the reviews and stuff. And I was like, here it is. They're going to tell me to stop doing that because they're like, no, just shut up, stop doing it. And they were like, no, like, good job. Keep up the good fight. We all have to deal with this kind of harassment. And they're like, this comes from on high. They're like, you can keep going with that if you're concerned. I was like, yes.
Right.
And I felt like really great that there was a company that was, honestly, because there is that sort of hesitation to be like, well, we don't want to upset any fans, even if they happen to be Nazi people. So to sort of have a company kind of back your play a little bit, even if it's kind of behind the scenes, just like, hey, keep on, you're fine, we're good here, was nice. So it was weird to sort of see that turnaround now, but it had nothing to do with fans. It had everything to do with politics.
Absolutely. One of the things, maybe this is petty, but actually, no, it's not. Fuck that. It's not petty. One of the things I hate.
Let it be petty. It's all right.
So one of the things I hate the most about what happened here is every asshole who has a problem with you gets to claim a victory.
They do.
You know what I mean?
They're still doing their victory lap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the Trump thing, man. It just emboldens the worst kind of people.
It does.
And it emboldens them to do this to more creators. It's just
I've even seen them be like, who are we going to do now? Like the questions of like, we got Chuck Wendig fired, even though whether they actually claim that victory deservedly or whether it's just some rando on Twitter who's saying that, they've chosen other targets. They're like, who can we kick out of this game next?
And they have hit lists. And the crazy, dude, the most bananas thing is I see people replying to this situation and you saying, there's no big conspiracy. You just got fired off a job. Get over it. And I'm like, dude, there literally is an ongoing conspiracy. There are chat rooms and threads devoted to we're going to get together and screw people over. Like they're out there. They're very easy to find. Yeah. It's just so absurd to me that people can't see what's going on when it's so apparent, Or maybe they don't want to see it. I don't know. But it's just
they're ultimately a part of it. They're at least a part of it, or they're ignorant of it, and so they become a part of it by proxy. Yeah.
Denying it is part of advancing the whole thing. It's just sorry. There's so many aspects of this that just piss me off.
Well, that's the thing. Like the whole thing has this disgusting relevance to everything that's going on. The ongoing outhouse fire that is our country is like is this. In fact, some of the people who were involved with Gamergate, the proto Comics Gate, are literally in power. They literally have we're going to visit the White House today, or they're like, I'm a journalist now at the White House. You're like, holy shit, this Gamergate got destroyed itself, but then its infected little tendrils got into our actual political discourse and political power system.
It's become Hydra, not.
Oh God, it really has. It's so scary.
It's so fucked up, man. It's so fucked up. Mur, do you have anything else you'd like to pursue before we kind of segue into questions? Because since we have Chuck on, there are a lot of questions.
No, it's all shit and terrible, and we should burn it down.
The end.
That's what I'm thinking, because it's
that's the T-shirt for this episode. It's all shit and terrible.
It's all shit and terrible. We should all burn it down. Good.
I mean, I've been waiting, not excitedly, but I've been waiting for the inevitable people to get mad at me writing solo.
I'm glad that hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, you wrote a damn good book. I know that shouldn't mean anything to those people, but it's true. It's a really good book.
It's at least a defense, internally, and you wrote a good book, so.
You can tell. In fact, I think you should own them. You're so awesome. Even the Nazis couldn't criticize you.
That's right.
Let's go.
I want to be the kind of thing that Nazis criticize. Can I just say?
No, I get it. If
the Nazis say, you know what, this one's okay. I'm not good with that.
No, that's not what I was. No, they have a problem with it, but it's so well done. Even the Nazis that have a problem with it are like, I can't fuck with this. It's too good.
They can't get traction on it.
It's overcome my petty bullshit. I just want to enjoy the fantasy.
Okay.
I just want to enjoy the fantasy briefly. I know it's not true. All right, so shall we go to the goddamn Twitter?
Go to the goddamn Twitters.
Because Twitter's been good for me so far. No, actually, I joke, but Twitter actually has been pretty good for me. Twitter has made my career and has been a great place, and there's wonderful people there. So you know what? I'll take this one dent and move on.
I totally fine. Dude, I'm about to say, I obviously have nothing near the following you do, but it's been in many instances, like the one last week that we're going to talk about in the show. It's been my only tool to fight back against bullshit. So,
by the way, I will notice right now. I just went to Twitter and I have noticed that Stan Lee has died.
Oh fuck! Really?
Yeah, I'm just seeing that now.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
Stan Lee, Jesus.
That is, I can't even process that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's sad.
You kind of just felt like he would live forever, I guess. I mean, not really, but
no. But I mean, you give it. He's obviously an eternal figure. It's not like he's he didn't die in his prime.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, not that I'm celebrating his death. I just mean he made it. He's 400 years old and he changed comics. So
That's kind of how I felt about Ursula K. Le Guin's death. I mean, it was sad, but it was she did a lot. She had a full life.
Right. I mean, you can celebrate it, not.
Yeah. You don't really say, God, what could she have done if she just had a little more time? No. I don't think so.
That kid was just getting revved up. She was going to go places.
Yeah.
But all the same. Rest in peace, Stan. Well, there you go, folks. Live reactions to the apparent death of Stan Lee.
Apparent?
He's cameoing right now in the app.
Well, I haven't independently confirmed it. I trust Chuck, but I'm not.
You haven't gone out to find him. Yeah, no.
Facts are more important than ever. So until I get a secondary source, I can't in good conscience. No, I believe you, Chuck. I understand that.
I'm just reporting what Twitter, but I see Ryan Reynolds and the news is covering it. So yeah, It looks like it's Hollywood Reporter.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that was all right.
Segue out of that. Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we're going to go to Twitter. Stephen Reed asks, is it possible for a writer today, or say in the next 10 years, to make all of their income from writing without being Lee Child, Tom Clancy, etc.? Is the mid-list writer extinct?
I hope not, because I'm doing it. So
are you classified as a mid-list writer?
I think so. I mean, I know that technically I have the New York Times thing, which I don't know if some people say that it knocks you out of the mid-list, but the New York Times thing was also for the Star Wars books.
Right.
I mean, I still think, like, at my heart and at my sales are mid-list, which is to say good but not amazing and not terrible. Like, I survive and continue to do okay surviving. So, sure.
Do you think the mid-list, it's like the definition of that has changed?
Yeah, I don't know. The mid-list has never been a really firm definition is one of the things.
Yeah.
Because it always feels like I never understood it because like mid-list to me is always like most surviving writers, and then like who's below the mid-list? I never really got clarity on who is like couldn't make it to mid-list, and that feels like weirdly insulting because someone is it a money thing? Is it a constant level of books thing? I don't know. It's a weird definition, but I assume you can still. I know a number of writers who you would not qualify as superstars who are doing it full time. Not that you have to, not that that's a requirement, but I mean, if you want to, I think that's still a thing. You just have to be busy. You're going to work a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said earlier, one of our guiding principles in Ditch Diggers is diversify your revenue streams.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do love our vague definitions in this industry, though.
We do.
Yeah.
And we also love to not like share information. Not so much with each other. I mean, I feel like writers do a pretty good job of keeping it, like sharing actual data and information. But like as an industry, we don't talk about what's normal or not normal, whether it's terms of money or contracts, and we keep it all. Obviously, that's what you kind of do here to disrupt something.
Well, yeah,
so
that's the whole damn reason we started the podcast, because everything you're saying is absolutely true. There's no, and dude, it's intentional. That's one of the tactics. I always use pro wrestling as an analogy for that, because one of the big things in pro wrestling was they never wanted the wrestlers to talk about what they made with each other. It's one of the tactics they used so they could underpay most of the people, and then no one would ever. Yeah, it was a huge, and that was built into the etiquette, by the way.
Yeah.
That was built into it's rude and it's unprofessional to talk to another wrestler about what they make, because not everybody's making the same thing.
Yeah, it's so they normalize secrecy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they do. And I feel like there's a lot of that goes on in publishing, in every industry that employs writers, really. There's still that company store mentality of, we want to keep you on the company store token so you're dependent on us and you have no choice or power or anything.
God damn it.
So on that note,
yeah.
Matthew Claxton asks, I've got some novellas I'm considering indie publishing and a novel ready to send off to agents soon. I have a request for a full MS from one agent now. Is it better to hold off on any plans for the novellas until I hopefully have an agent?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. That's like one of those 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Like, it depends. Like, if you really think the novellas are good and you want them out there, it's not like the publishing market for a novella is amazing. You have Tor.com, and they're pretty amazing. I know other publishers like Harper Voyager will occasionally do novellas, but it's not like oh my God, you're going to get rich off of it. So if you feel like it's a good way to get a little attention early before you get it out into the hands of agents and to get theoretically a novel into publishers' hands, then maybe. But at the same time, maybe you want to reserve those and so you have them as kind of quote unquote ammunition for when the time comes to be like, I have more stuff to throw at the agent to sell. So I don't know.
Are agents interested in selling novellas? There's not a lot of money there.
Not really.
I mean, it's kind of a sweetened deal kind of a thing, I think. Like, it's like as I said, Tor.com is an option, and individual publishers might want, like, if Harper Voyager buys the novel, they might say, oh, if there's a connected novella or even a novella that's separate, we might publish that as an e-release for you. And the money's probably not great, but I don't know that it's going to be great on self-publishing it either. So you kind of just decide what you want to do with it.
Well, speaking from, I actually do have personal experience in this realm, because I sold a bunch of novellas before I got the agent that I have now. And just speaking from a financial standpoint, and also, anybody can submit a novella. Like, Tor.com will open the submissions from anybody.
Yeah.
Just the return you're going to get on them, I wouldn't want an agent cutting in on that because it would reduce it so much.
Sure.
For what you're getting out of that relationship, like one of the things I told my agent when we hooked up is, this is what I've been able to do on my own. This is the money I've been able to make on my own. If I'm going to sign with you, I want it to be worth it. I want you to be getting me deals that make sense for me to be cutting someone in for 15%, Yep. And I don't think like a novella deal is that deal. You can go out and sell a novella right now, whoever you are, if it's good enough. So
yeah, and the thing too is it's like, because I that's how I sort of started with self-publishing, was both a short story collection and then a novella, and it did well for me self-publishing it, and while it never made like bank, it did a considerable amount of money, and then eventually I was able to sell that novella in novel form to a publisher.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
I did not know that, Joe.
Yeah, the Atlanta Burns started out as a Kickstarter.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry.
Amazon, yeah.
I did know that. I just forgot. That is very cool. No, yeah, the thing about the novellas is, I did a whole series of 7 for Tor.com, which I think is more than anyone else has done in terms of a series of novellas.
Yeah,
at least there. And like, they didn't make me rich at all. Like, I made a little money off them. They didn't even sell particularly well, I'll be honest, but they got stellar reviews in markets that were not reviewing novellas until then, and they also positioned me really well for everything I've done since. And when I was feeling low about that, I was actually just like bitching to my agent about how badly they were selling, and he told me to just look at it like promotion that I was getting paid for. Because it was getting my name out there, it was getting me good positioning in the industry, it was getting me a lot of fans in the industry. And, it paid off later when we went to make the deal on the last novel that I wrote. So that's a good way to look at them, too. It's not something that's going to make you rich, but it's worth doing for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, okay.
So just throw that out there. Jeff asks, hope this is clear, but does work in tie-in fiction or comics come from agents finding the opportunities for their authors, or from editors making offers to authors who they themselves are already familiar with? Is the agent finding you tie-in work, or is the editor coming to you?
Well, I mean, for me, the Star Wars thing was because I tweeted about it, which is not normally how you get work, but I tweeted I wanted to write Star Wars, and I got to write Star Wars.
Fucking wish it was. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I know, right? So, sometimes my agent approaches me with opportunities, and sometimes I've had editors or IP owners go either to me or to her. And sometimes it's stuff I've sought out, in terms of the Star Wars one. Obviously, I kind of sought that one out. So it's like yes to all of that. I think the best answer there is to just have a great agent who is both receptive and eager to both accept new work for you and find new work, if that's the kind of thing you want to do.
Yeah, for me it was one thing was my agent knew the Del Rey editor and knew that I wanted to write for Star Wars, so she was putting my name forward. And for another thing that still has not been announced, apparently I believe the IP was interested in me.
Ooh,
and they're the ones who...
Oh, I think I know what that is. Yes.
Who, so they sought me out, or rather, they contacted the editor, and then she contacted my agent. But, been talking to my agent about... She just recently asked me what other IP am I interested in, so she can, keep an eye out for opportunities. So, I'll echo it. So, it can happen in all sorts of ways, but having a good agent with their ear to the ground kind of thing, who knows people. See, this is the kind of thing where when people say you don't need an agent, and I'm like, my agent was hanging out with the editor of Star Wars books, and she put my name in there. So yeah, agents, they're cool. I like them.
Right.
Good agent is worth their weight in gold. Absolutely. And I also, Mur, I love that you have become the hot property. That's you.
You.
Yeah, I still can't cope with that. Can we move on?
No, absolutely.
I don't know what to do with that.
That is the end of the Twitter questions. Do we have any email questions you want to get to in this episode, Mur?
No, because we're doing our special thing, which I guess we can announce now since we've
talked
discussed
about it.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Well, Matt and I have been irregular with recording this fall. We've told you why, but still, it's not really fair to you. Also, when we've been regular with recording, we've also been irregular with keeping up with your email feedback, because oftentimes we'll talk for a long time, and then we'll go to Twitter, and then we'll look at the amount of email feedback we have and say, well, shit, we'll do this another time, because there's too much. And so with the holidays coming up, Matt and I decided that we were going to do sort of an advent calendar daily ditch diggers where we tackle one of our feedback questions every day. So we will get through all of our feedback through December, and we will be doing one a day unless, we can't. But we will try really hard.
It'll happen unless it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Because we're Stone Cold Pros.
We are Stone Cold Pros.
Hashtag Stone Cold Pros. Nice.
So yeah.
I'd just like to clarify, Chuck. Mer was speaking to our audience, not you.
Yeah, no, I figured that. I assumed that.
I just want to make it clear, like, she didn't mean to imply that you are personally disappointed in our release scheduling. Well, I know that, but I didn't want to call you out.
I'm sorry, Chuck.
I always assume you're disappointed in me, Chuck.
Yeah, just persistent disappointment.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Advent, look for it. Unless you don't see it, I guess is the big tease. No, we're gonna do the Advent. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fantastic holiday fun. I love Christmas for reasons I can't really explain. Yeah. And we're gonna have a fun time doing it. All right then. So that is the end of the questions. And we are coming up. An hour went by really fast here. It always does when you're on the show, Chuck. It always does. I love you guys.
This is a good show. I like the show.
Thanks very much. We love you too. And my wife loves you. I made that clear before.
No, I need to get back out there and see you guys.
You should. We had such a good time. We'll go back to Chinatown. We went to the awesome Chinese restaurant with the bakery next door. We got you buns to take back to your hotel.
I know, sweet buns.
Nikki is still really proud of the fact she picked out the perfect bun for you. That was like a big deal.
I went back to my hotel room that night and just devoured those things. And I thought fondly of her.
She will love hearing that. So yeah, Chuck, can you let us know the things you got going on that are actually going to come out? Because you haven't been dropped from them because of a Nazi mob?
So far, at least. Yeah. Let's see. I've got coming out in January. I have Vultures, which is the 6th and final book of the Miriam Black series, which is
that's a big deal.
It's only the end because you ran out of birds, right?
It is. I ran out of birds. No more birds. It's just 6 birds. Yeah. Global warming has killed all the birds, so I've got 6 to work with. Yep. That's cool. And then in July is my bison bludgeoner of a novel, Wanderers, which is we had a kind of an epic horror thing, but we had an excerpt and a cover release on Entertainment Weekly last week, so it was a pretty
good.
Pretty excited to see it.
That's amazing.
So, like 280,000 words.
I'm really excited for that book. Like, I knew you were working on a big tome. I told you this on Twitter, but I know you were working on a big tome of a thing, but I didn't know what the premise was. And now that I know what the premise is, I am super jazzed to read that. It sounds really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really swung for the fences on. Not that I don't swing for the fences on all my books, but like, I was really like trying to like kill God with a baseball bat on this one. Like, I really given it everything I have.
Like, listen, folks, I don't normally try, but on this one,
I tried extra hard.
That's awesome. Great. And where can people find you online, Chuck?
Just in various digital bolt holes and sewer grates. No,
terribleminds.com. Sorry.
Bolt holes, yeah. Digital bolt holes, not buttholes. That's a different.
I heard buttholes too.
Digitalbuttholes.com is my website.
I'm sure that actually exists.
Probably does exist. Yeah.
I'm not going to put that in the show notes.
I know, but I hope someone on Twitter will report back when they find out what's there. I'm at terribleminds.com, and I'm on Twitter at Chuck Wendig.
Fantastic. You show things now.
Digitalbuttholes.com server IP address could not be found.
That's the next IP that you're
really? It can't be found? You looked
That's
it up?
what it says. I mean, granted, my connection's not been great, but
it is hard to find digital buttholes.
But I am able to load other pages, so.
I hope someone then buys digital. Or have you checked the who is on that one?
So wait, there are ancillary pages to digitalbuttholes.com? There just isn't like a hub? I'm confused.
www.digitalbuttholes.com.
I love that this is the thing that's happening on this show right now, by the way.
Oh my god, it's available.
Yeah.
We could buy this domain.
There's no one camping on Digital Buttholes?
I don't think so.
That's crazy.
I wonder if Digital Butthole is taken. Who is digitalbum.net? Okay. Digitalbum.net is a thing.
God, we could buy digitalbuttholes.apartments, digitalbuttholes.cars. my god, are these like really things you can do now? You can have these horrible like
Yes.
side domains .photo.hiphop digitalbuttholes.hip we can get for $19.99.
The only caveat is Trump has trademarked all those in Russia.
Oh,
so you're not going to get them there. I love that we have fucking best-selling New York Times best-selling author, couple of Hugo winners, Hall of Fame podcaster, and we're all sitting around Googling digital buttholes on our business writing podcast.
Digitalbuttholes.com.
I did a book tour, like a short little book tour last year with mega superstar authors Kevin Hearn and Fran Wilde. And we were in the car discussing the Instagram account, which is Secret Buttholes. I don't know if you're aware of that. Seriously,
I'm not,
it's actually
and I'm okay
it's a
with that.
phenomenal Instagram. You should look it up. It's like things in nature and reality, like just like items and pieces of equipment and that have like that appear to possess a butthole or be demonstrating a butthole like.
Wow.
No, it's Secret Buttholes on Instagram. It's a
How
funny,
has Christopher Nolan not made that movie?
Right?
That's what I want to know.
Just to get
Secret Buttholes, Chris. You and your brother get on that. I'm
So
actually
if I
gonna totally look that up.
If I buy digitalbuttholes.com, should I have auto renew on, or will this still be funny next November?
Will it ever not be funny?
If you buy that, I will pay for it. If you buy
Oh my
it,
God.
I think that there's so much we can do with that.
This is a special moment. I feel like I'm
It
here
is.
for it.
No, we're making history. We observed the death of the Titan, like Stan Lee, and we're reserving digitalbutthole.com. all in
Review
the same
purchase.
episode. I think he would approve, frankly. I think he'd be like Excelsior, digital buttholes.
Yeah.
He would say
Excelsior.
Excelsior, digital buttholes.
Uh,
That's how I'm on Stan Lee. All of this is so wrong, and I feel bad about it.
not that
Did I
bad,
ever? Did I ever tell you my remote control helicopters landing on Bud story?
though.
It'll be real quick. I know we're pressing for time, but it'll be real quick. Some friends. So this was back in the early days of the internet, but some friends of us were having a conversation about: do you think there's any kink or type of porn that you can't find on the internet?
Well, that's
And
like
so
Rule
we
34, right? I mean, of course.
Yeah. We challenged each other to come up with something some fetish that you couldn't find online.
Okay.
And I forget who it was, but someone thought they were playing, the Trump card, not the. Never mind.
Yeah,
He's
right.
ruined the word, I know.
That term is ruined now.
It really is. It's so sad. But somebody thought they had the game winner with, I bet there isn't a site for landing remote control helicopters on the large rear ends of women.
Okay.
And all of us were convinced that couldn't be a thing. We were like, you've won the game. So we looked for it. No less than 2 websites at the time devoted to landing remote control helicopters on large asses. You win again, Internet. You win again.
Oh my God, Murr, did you do it?
I did it. I just forwarded it to you.
You did it. You bought it. Oh,
There's no telling
done.
where we're going to go from here.
Oh, this is the new frontier for us. This is we
It
can do
is.
anything.
This is going to change our lives.
Now we got to figure out what to do with it, but that'll be another ditch diggers. Perhaps we'll have you back for one of the advents.
Yeah, if you do you've got to have me back for a digital buttholes conversation.
We will do that.
We don't. I want to be a part of this now. I want to be.
You gave birth to it, Jack.
I feel like
you
a
gave
little
birth to digital buttholes.
I just like a little bit. Just my hand is in it, not the butthole. The idea of the digital buttholes.
For the love of God, let's end this episode before anything else goes astray. Chuck, we love having you. You're one of our favorite guests. Thanks for coming on. Seriously, thanks for coming on and talking about this so openly. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't a fun thing for you.
Yeah,
but
nope.
it covers, like you said, it touches so many important things. I think it was really important to
it does.
to
And
address.
I would say that to like anybody listening, because there's still occasionally people like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm good. I will be fine. I'm actually probably better off than I was before it happened." But it's just the troubling, chilling concern of what this says for freelancers, for artists, for people who are less privileged than I am. And so that's where I would ask people to sort of pay attention to how this is an upsetting phenomenon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the perfect sentiment to end the show on. Mer, will you take us home?
Yeah. I'm at merverse.com. Matt's at matt-wallace.com. Am I right about that? Okay. And you can find us on Twitter at Mighty Mur and Matt FN Wallace. And we'll see you next time, probably for the holidays. Hooray!
Woo!
Digitalbuttholes.com. You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice, devospice.com.